بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. Earlier when I was leaving, a brother was asking a question. I said this question cannot be answered when someone is walking. It's a very serious one. If the brother here, if he's around us, he can ask the question and I can answer it, inshallah. If not, we'll talk about the Khatira. طيب. It's about a question of matter of Aqidah, and the way I understood it is the meaning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide to him whom he will and leads astray whom he will. But if the brother is not here, I'm not going to answer it because it's going to be for him. خير إن شاء الله. You want me to answer? You want me? Yes. Still, inshallah, if you have anything in your heart, need to be cleansed before tomorrow, inshallah. Before tonight. Tonight. No, tomorrow. Tonight. But the dua is going to be tomorrow before Fajr. So. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides to him whom he will and leads astray whom he will. First, the first aspect to understand, this fundamental aspect in the Aqidah, in the creed of Islam, first to define the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the first thing. Because whoever who asks this question, there's a hidden, element in their heart that there's a flare of injustice. And we need to embrace it and be, very open, transparent with ourselves so we can have the ability to cleanse that, I would not say doubt, but lack of certitude within, this mas'ala. So when someone say Allah leads astray whom he will and guides whom he will, it's like there is no balance, there is no justice, kind of random. I mean, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will for this person to go to paradise, then he's going paradise, regardless, and the other person is going to hellfire regardless. So some people, they understand it like that. Other people, they leave it pending because they cannot find, explanation to satisfy their, heart, but they keep it pending. They do their work, they do their worship, but something is bothering them inside. First aspect is to define the attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is not the all just. That's a fact. Because if we have some idea that this is not right, then the problem, are we going to accuse our understanding or accuse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Therefore the believer, to be humble first, in the first step, to say Allah is the all just and the all merciful. So it is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do an action the way I'm thinking. He take a person and he does not care, no, that's not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So to accuse first your understanding, because we lack understanding, we lack knowledge, we are, we live in a very aspect of finitude, life, time, knowledge and everything. So when we read something, first we submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we say, I don't know. However, the most important thing, I hold fast on what the most, established and what's firm and certain in our aqidah. Allah la yadlimu ahada wa ma rabbuka bi dhallamin lil abid. Never Allah will transgress anyone, and Allah is the all just and Allah is the all merciful subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's one aspect. And this will help a person first to get on the level of being modest and humble so they can listen, they can understand. This is the first thing. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides whom He will and leads astray whom He will. First, the people, they say that Allah already knows everything and everything is being, this is the question that has been even mentioned to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, if already in the saved tablet that we are, everything is decreed, should we now, let it go, or should we act? The Prophet ﷺ act, because everyone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make easy for him the path to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already decreed. Now the decree of Allah, you have to understand, it's not to force you or to compel a person to go to hellfire, for example. The decree of Allah is the knowledge of Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows who are going to be the people of hellfire and knows who are going to be the people of paradise. This knowledge does not mean that He forces you, subhanahu wa ta'ala, to go to hellfire. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't know, then this God who does not know who's going to be in paradise and who's going to be in hellfire, therefore this God is lacking of knowledge, which this God will not be even able to be trusted because He does not have enough knowledge. So one of the requirements of the attribute of the true God, to have the absolute knowledge. However, knowing, it does not mean compelling you and force you. Okay, this is first one. So Allah knows everything, but does not mean, because today, very simple. How did you come to the masjid for Qiyamul Layl at this time? If there's anybody who forced you, it's your free will. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the gift of the free will to choose on your own. Now that we have the gift of the free will, but Allah, because He is Allah, He knows what you're going to choose. And when you look at it, there is two destiny. The destiny which is universal in a very simple way, things that you cannot control, and the destiny which is shar'i based on your own choices. And these choices based on the free will that you have done. So whatever choice you make, you are defining your future. You are defining to its future. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. Whoever who give in the sake of Allah, believe in the hereafter and the paradise, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wattaqa, show piety, Allah is going to make easy for him the path. That's the tawfiq, that's the guidance. وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلَ وَاسْتَغْنَى وَكَذَّبَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْعُسْرَى. Therefore, the guidance comes after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala show you the path. When Allah show you the path, the person is going to take a stand and a step. The first step is toward what? Toward taqwa. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide you. So Allah guide whom He will, because when, for example, a person, he just asked, he said, "Oh God of the universe, help me to be guided to you." There's people, many of the revert, mashallah, they didn't know about Islam. They asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they said, "Ya Allah, O God of the universe, the true God, guide me to your way." This is whom He will. They make the first step, and then when they make the dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever who will to be guided, Allah will guide them. He will show them the path. He will show them, He make them, like one brother I know, that subhanAllah, he said, not within a week I met a Muslim and he offered me a book. It was the Quran. That was my path to Islam. I know another person who was subhanAllah looking for the truth. He knows subhanAllah things. He met Islam in a bookstore. They have, those sell books outside, and he picked a book of travel book, and this travel book, it was about Al-Quds, Jerusalem. And in the last page, there's, the definition of 3 religions, and very short, paragraph about Islam brought him to Islam. Whom He will. This is here. So not whom He will before you show you the guidance. And lead astray whom He will, the person who been given to them the guidance and they rejected it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِلَّ قَوْمًا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَاهُمْ حَتَّى يُبَيِّنَ لَهُمْ مَا يَتَّقُونَ. Allah will not go to lead astray people till He will make clear for them what they need to be shielding themselves from. He will show them the guidance. وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةُ وُزْرَ أُخْرَى. And then قال فَمَنِ اهْتَدَى فَإِنَّمَا يَهْتَدِي لِنَفْسِهِ وَمَنْ ضَلَّ فَإِنَّمَا يَضِلُّ عَلَيْهِ. Whoever who find guidance is the guidance for themselves, and whoever who goes astray is against them. قال وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. And we were not ever to punish anyone till we'll give them a message. واضح? Therefore guide to him whom He will. The one who looking for guidance, Allah guide him to him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give the guidance for the humankind. قَدْ وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا. We have sent in every nation a messenger to convey the message to the people. So when they convey the message, the way you embrace it, the way you take it, that's how you define your steps, the next steps. That's where start this ayah. وَأَمَّا ثَمُودَ. For Thamud, هَدَيْنَاهُمْ. We give them guidance. فَاسْتَحَبُّوا الْعَمَى عَلَى الْهُدَى. They preferred blindness on guidance. فَأَخَذَهُمْ عَذَابُ الْهُونِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what is being taken there? Allah sent them this giant camel. Big guidance. قَالَ فَاسْتَحَبُّوا. So the punishment only came after show them the guidance. Look at all the stories of the Prophet. In Surah Yasin, small town, Allah sent 2 messengers, then the 3rd messenger, and they belied them. And then one of the believers came and begged them to ask, to accept Islam, and they killed him. So if they have been punished, is after the guidance. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lead astray those who will, subhanahu wa ta'ala, but His will is not random. His will is Mashi'a, is under a divine laws. These divine laws, it has knowledge, absolute knowledge of Allah, and the absolute wisdom and absolute justice. These are 3 altogether. So whom He will, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the guidance, the way you embrace it, the way you react to it, the way you take your decision, that is going to define your future. If you take it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then will guide you. Because when you decide to be guided, when you decide to embrace Islam, it's not automatically that you're going to have it. That's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help you to find it. That's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open your heart for it. That's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala endear for you the iman. But the person who rejected, he will have signs to be reminded. Keep rejecting. Then the punishment for the person who rejected, Allah caused him to go astray, so he will not have an opportunity of mercy in the day of judgment. وَلَا يَحْزُنْكَ الَّذِينَ يَسَارِعُونَ فِي الْكُفْرِ إِنَّهُمْ لَن يَضُرُّوا اللَّهَ شَيْئًا. Let not make those who are hasting and racing to disbelief to cause you hurt. They will not harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all. However, قال يريد الله ألا يجعل لهم حظا في الآخرة. Allah wants to not have them have any opportunity of mercy in the hereafter. That's why the biggest punishment, it's not subhanallah punishment like to have a physical punishment or to doom, that is going to be in hellfire. But the biggest punishment when someone reach or attain a level of no return. What is the level of no return? With their rejection, with their subhanallah cunning, with their corruption, they came to the point that the heart will have seal. And this seal, which is either will guide them or tell them the Quran, or if you recite and bring them all the prophets, they will not believe. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the beginning of the Quran, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَنذَرْتَهُمْ أَمْ لَمْ تُنذِرْهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. It's equal to them. You warn them or you don't warn them, they don't believe, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already put seal in their heart. And that scare us. So the punishment of the person who's being given guidance to not be guided or to reject the guidance. He's traveling on the path to gain a seal in their heart, and they become from the people of hellfire while they're still walking on this earth. That's the meaning of it. So when you read it, don't say, oh, Allah guides whom He will. Maybe Allah does not want to guide me. No. Whom He will, and this Mashiach of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah will to give you the guidance, and then after, the way how you react to it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a system of will in which He will, it help you or guide you or give you, define your steps, based on what you do. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, again, and I finish with this, قال فأما من أعطى واتقى وصدق بالحسنى. Whoever who gives in the sake of Allah, donate, charity, and he believes in the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and has show piety and act in righteousness, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make easy for him the path. Make easy for them the path. To find the companionship, to teach them, to find people to help them, to guide them, to subhanallah endear for them the faith. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's what it means, guide to him whom He will. Leads astray from He will. فَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلْ وَاسْتَغْنَى وَكَذَّبَ بِالْحُسْنَى. So those who bakhil, he becomes stingy and deny the reward of Allah, which is the hereafter, and then they do not show any piety, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cause them to lead to go astray. And inshallah is right. It's clear inshallah. Alhamdulillah. وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعَبِيدِ. And every time you read that ayah, you have to first set this person who Allah is talking about is already had the guidance. Now you're going to ask me, what about the people they never had heard about Islam? It's a good question to finish with. What about people they lived in nation or in a time there were not any prophet? These people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not punish them. They come at the day of judgment, and Allah already knows if these people, if they had messenger, would they had accepted Islam or not. So when they come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these people, Allah is going to test them in the day of judgment. This person who came and said, Ya Allah, I never heard about Islam, I never heard about faith, I never heard the thing, I lived my life, I tried to be good. Ya Allah, said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all just, I will not punish you. However, we're going to go through a trial to show if you are sincere of what you're saying or not. What is this trial? As it has been mentioned in the khabar. Allah ordained them to enter into a gate which is all fire. A gate. And He said, then if you believe and you submit in your Lord, then I order you to go through that gate. So the person, he looks at the scary fire, he will decline. He said, no. So this one he disbelieved. He didn't, like Iblis, la'anahullah, told him, usjud, he didn't. Becomes mal'oon. The one who sincerely accepts, because that person, if he was in the dunya, he have accepted Islam, the other one, he have rejected Islam. And this is the test. Because if you believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful and the all just, how can order you to something that is in your mind unjust? Exactly like we are explaining this. So you say, Allah is just, Allah is merciful, and whatever He ordained me, then is mercy. Even despite the fact He's fire. So the person who's going to go through the fire, it was only a curtain behind the paradise. That's the test. That's the test. So you see, قَالَ وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. We're not going to punish till we send a messenger. And those who didn't have a messenger or being conveyed to them the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will be tested in the day of judgment like the test that I have mentioned to you. فنسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يطهر قلوبنا وأن يحبب لنا الإيمان ويجعلنا ثابتين على الصراط المستقيم. اللهم امين يا رب العالمين.